In today's video, I give my thoughts on the Chevrolet Tahoe hybrid, why it was canceled, and a bunch of other things like the pros, cons, the engine, and the fuel economy. Now, before I actually start talking about the car, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this about 57,000 times out this video. This car was a good idea, but it was executed poorly and the timing was off by about 10 years. If it weren't for that, I feel like it would have sold. And also another major issue with this car that I'm also going to say about 58 times in this video, it was too expensive. 60 grand in today's money. It was about 56, 53-ish grand if you bought it back in 2008, which translates to about 60 grand in today's money. And for 60 grand, do you know what you could get? Because you could get a brand new BMW X5, a BMW X5. You could get a Mercedes-Benz GLE. You could get even a very nice Porsche Cayenne for that money. Or you can get this General Motors built Chevrolet Tahoe hybrid with 24 miles a gallon. It was truly a poor. It was a poor execution, honestly. Also, the thing that also led to some of these just sitting at the car dealerships, the giant hybrid badges across the side of this car. It's one thing for it to just say hybrid, maybe in small print on, the rear hatch of the car, or maybe on the front bumper or the front grille or something. So, oh, it's a hybrid. But for it to say hybrid, like it's a news van or a work van, that's a problem because not everyone in a 15-mile radius wants to know that you're driving a hybrid, because no one cares that you're driving a hybrid. So that Chevrolet definitely wanted you to know that there's a difference between the regular Tahoe and the Tahoe hybrid. Yes, there is a difference. The price and the fuel economy for extra miles a gallon. Chevrolet had no business trying to sneak this little huge SUV thing into the economic crisis, knowing that their regular Tahoe was failing. So you think that a Tahoe hybrid gaining 4 miles a gallon was going to do much better? Because it didn't. Okay, gas prices were like $5 a gallon in some parts of the country, like LA or Florida or New York back in 2008 when this thing came out. And so it was already kind of expensive to fill up a smart Ford to. But you're talking about a 20, maybe even 30-gallon big SUV that you're trying to fill up. Oh, that's going to be very expensive. And so, Chevrolet, they should have just kind of tapered off with the Tahoe. Really not tried to mention it that much. Really don't advertise until this whole thing was over. If it wasn't over, then just cancel it. That's what Chevrolet should have done. But nope, they spent extra time and extra money and extra resources trying to market this thing that barely sold. I'm gonna be honest, I couldn't even find any sales numbers, so there's not gonna be a sales numbers part of this video. But I'll tell you right now, about 12 people bought this every year. It was stupid. So now we move on to some pros, and these are the three nicest things I could say about this car, honestly. It gets a better fuel economy, and by better, I mean 24 miles a gallon. 4 extra miles a gallon more. It was stupid. But I mean, it was a 25% increase. But at the end of the day, 4 miles a gallon is 4 miles a gallon. It's not really going to make a huge difference. And then the next one is conserved styling. I put this as a pro. And honestly, aside from like the 86 different hybrid badges, this is really conserved. If you painted the hybrid badges, no one would know that this is a hybrid. Everyone would just think that you had a regular '07, '08 Tahoe. Nobody would even question it. But with those huge hybrid letters, it's really not all that conservative. But compared to like a Prius or compared to an Insight or something that was just bold and in your face, this is definitely one of the more tame of all of the hybrids. It's really not all that tame, but it's more than, say, an Insight or the weird first generation Chevrolet Volt. It was really weird. Anyway, and then a spacious interior. Aside from the third row and the fact that you can barely fit a carton of milk or carton of eggs back there in the rear cargo space without having to remove the third row, which we're getting to, this is a relatively practical vehicle. First and second row passengers, they have enough room. Maybe stretch out your legs or, do something of that nature. But in the third row, you're not going to be able to do that. But compared to some other three-row SUVs like the brand new Lexus RX, it's a decent SUV for at least the interior cabin space. Now we move on to the cons. A cramped third row, like I literally just mentioned 2 minutes ago. Um, it's there for maybe very short drives, maybe from home to the grocery store and back. That's probably what you'll be using all of your cars for now. Anyway, so that's probably what the third row is going to be used for. I can't see you using this as a road trip vehicle, knowing that your third row can barely fit a dog comfortably, but whatever, and a small dog at that. Hybrid badges is the second con. I've already mentioned this. Looks like you're driving a hybrid billboard because everywhere you go, everywhere you look, it says hybrid, 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 hybrid. It's like, we know that you're driving a hybrid. Can you tell us something else? And then they say hybrid one more time. Anyway, interior quality is another. For the pricing, this is a very bad interior. I don't care. 60 grand should be getting you a pretty upscale interior. I'm not saying it's going to be the finest hand woven, anything like that. None of the hand woven stitches and the perfectly aligned metal, nothing like that. But it should at least be sturdy, durable, not plastic painted to look like something else that it definitely isn't, not metallized plastic or whatever they're coming out with today. I mean, it should actually be a decent interior, but nope. Chevrolet, they just kind of gave you an interior. You could get a nicer interior in today's Chevrolet Sonic than you could in this $60,000 SUV 12 years ago. It's ridiculous how little they cared about the interior of this car. It was very bad, and I mean very bad. Now, if you own this, you'll know what I'm talking about. But even if you don't own it, it's still pretty bad. Now, I am going to mention, so I don't get like 68 comments about this. Yes, Mercedes, they did have a pretty bad interior for their little C-Class and E-Class, and even the new CLA up until like 2019 or 18, it had a pretty bad interior. But I mean, the CLA is not 60 grand either. And I know BMWs, they also had these little subpar interiors. This was fine for 2008, but looking at it 12 years later and looking at the price point, this was not a very good interior. And then a very small cargo area. I've already mentioned this. You can barely get anything back there. You try to get a backpack, you try to get any groceries, you try to get anything back there, the cargo won't close, or the hatch won't close, because they literally gave you no cargo space. All of the interior room was used for the interior passengers except for the third row. Chevrolet should not have offered this with a third row. You have 2 3-row vehicles. 3, you have the Traverse, which has more cargo room. You have this Tahoe, and you have the Suburban. If anything, Chevrolet should have tried to hybrid, make the Traverse a hybrid. That would have made more sense. The Traverse was just coming out. Why not make that a hybrid? Why make the Tahoe a hybrid? It made no sense. So Chevrolet already had 3-row SUVs. So why did they? I don't know, but that's what Chevrolet did 12 years ago, and that's why they went to bankruptcy like a year later. Number 5, it is too expensive. 60 grand, I don't care, can get you an X5, a very nice E-Class, even a Porsche 911, maybe. It can get you a lot of good cars, a lot of decent cars, a lot of cars that are still in good shape with very low miles. Or it could get you this. It makes no sense. I don't know who would want to pay 60 grand for this, but inevitably, like 13 people did, apparently. But whatever. Now we move on to the pricing chart and it's not really a chart because there are only two models. The 4x2, which is the base model rear wheel drive, it starts at 53,620. This is for the 2013 model year, by the way. So, yeah, it starts at 53,620 in 2013 model and 2013 money, which would be about 57, 58 grand in today's money. And you're getting a 6-liter V8. 6-liter V8. That's nice, making 332 horsepower. Or you can get the 4x4, which is all-wheel drive for 56 grand, which is about 60 grand in today's money. And you also get that 6-liter V8, which, I mean, they could have at least tried to stick a V6 in here or get an engine from someone else, get a motor from someone else. Why are you trying to stick this big gas-guzzling V8 and then have this little bitty hybrid system? Oh yeah, that'll get us about 10 miles a gallon. In reality, you got 4 extra miles a gallon in this thing. It was stupid. But now we move on to the end of this video. The Chevrolet Tahoe, like I said, it was a good idea on paper, but the execution was terrible. The pricing was too expensive, and overall, the value proposition didn't match up for what you were getting. Imagine if you paid 60 grand for an X5 only to get some of the cheapest materials. Like you're getting maybe 3 series equipment, 3 series materials, and you're paying X5 money. That makes no sense, but Chevrolet, they feel like they could get away with it even though they clearly couldn't because 24 people bought this thing. Nobody wanted these, and it's proven by the extremely low sales numbers. Now, I know that I say a lot of these cars are bad because of this or they're bad because of that, and they still get about 80,000 sales, but this was truly, truly terrible. So bad to the fact to where I couldn't even find any reputable sales numbers for the Tahoe Hybrid. That's how few of these they sold because they were too expensive. They didn't get nearly as good fuel economy as they should have. The back seat space was terrible. It was impractical. It had a big gas guzzling engine. It looked like you were driving around in a blimp that said hybrid 84 times. It was truly, truly terrible. And yet, I can kind of understand why people bought this thing. You had 12 kids. You had 6 kids, theoretically. In all honesty, you probably had about 6. You had 6 kids. You just needed to take them to and from soccer practice, and you didn't really want to necessarily give up your Tahoe feeling. You didn't want to drive a minivan because, like, the minivan selection was terribly awful back in 2008. And so this was your option. They didn't really hybrid. They didn't really make a hybrid version of the Traverse. So you couldn't go to the Traverse, even though it got way better gas mileage than this thing did. But whatever. So the fact that you didn't want to give up your Tahoe, you're willing to pay the extra 9, 10 grand for whatever reason, so that you could still have the SUV that you wanted, that you had before, but you didn't want to lose any of the benefits that you had from your Tahoe. Then this is for those people. Admittedly, all 4 of those people, but still, those people exist. Those people are the reason why this thing exists. And I guarantee you, even in 2008, no one was going to a Chevy dealer looking for a Tahoe hybrid. You most likely stumbled across it and they said, oh, okay, well, we'll give it to you for the price of a regular Tahoe. Somebody either took it, which they didn't, or they did take it, which, either way, the Tahoe Hybrid, it was a laughably bad car, but I do understand why General Motors made this car, why they took the time to develop this car, because they didn't want to lose the Tahoe brand, and there were still people who had a lot of kids that needed to get to and from work, to and from wherever they were going. So this is what you got. So that was the 2008 Chevrolet Tahoe Hybrid. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video.